Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing well on this Sunday morning. Hopefully, you can hear me all right. Let me know if sound's doing all right and visuals are all right. And we already got a commenter in here. Good. Crossing on that third set versus Kamabedai. So good. They're so good. Yeah. So today we're gonna be ranking Haikyuu teams, kind of an extension of last week's stream where we came up with the best players. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of rank the teams and stuff. And so we'll let a few more people get in here before we go out over everything. So I'll just give a few channel updates. I didn't post anything this week because the channel has had a couple of copyright issues the last couple or about a week ago. So I just kind of was taking a step back, making sure everything's good because I just don't want to, over post with, some of these copyright issues. But there will be a video on Ping Pong the Animation coming out later today. So be on the lookout for that. And then mainly this just might mean I might slow down some of my shorts and just be very specific on like some of the studios that I'm making videos about for the next couple months, basically, just to make sure that, I've rebutted some of these strikes, but you never know with them. And so I don't want to do anything too crazy and risk the channel. So if anything is posted a little less, that would be why. But I'll keep you guys posted on any copyright issues that come up in the future. But that's just why this weekend or last weekend coming up, there might have been a little bit less posts. But yeah, be on the lookout for the ping pong video later today. There will be a Haikyuu video later this week, so that'll be good. And then the next watch along will be voted on very soon. So be on the lookout for that. So yeah, we will be talking some Haikyuu today. You know what team never gets mentioned even in the videos about forgotten teams? That one with the delinquents and the one guy who committed to trying hard and dove into someone to save a ball. Yeah, which team was that? Like, why am I even like forgetting who that is? Is that the 2-on-2 team, or was that someone different? And so yeah, we can pull up the tier list just so you guys can see that. Let's pull it up here. So these are the teams we've got. Season 2 first. I know exactly what you're talking about. The guy with this team, right? If I'm kind of moving them around a little bit. Yeah, I think they were decent. If that is the team that we're talking about. Do you guys remember their name? I feel like there's some of these season 2 teams that I forget their names of. Like, it happens every time. Yeah, this is the 2-1-2 team, but I think it's different than the one that they're talking about, because that team's actually pretty good, and we'll get to that in a second. So I just grabbed a random tier list and I think these are like pretty decent barriers for each of the teams, like champion level, national level, prefectural, winner level, contender, and then first round loser. I mean, first round's like probably a bit aggressive. But I do think how I want to go about this, because like obviously, not all of the teams have played each other. Different teams have different strengths and weaknesses, and Crossno wins a ton, right? So going into these rankings, I want to think about it. I want to think about it as if these teams would play in a series, almost, to try to think who is the best. So we can really think about the team's style and, in the series, if they won or lost, was it variance that came into play, or was it generally or genuinely that they were inferior as a team? We will be ranking them through their end of this year. So, right, Crossno at the end of Kamamedai, that's the team that we're getting. So they're obviously very, very good. Date Tech, right? We're getting the version of them that is, on the precipice of, potentially going to nationals a little bit, the next semester. Two little teams, or am I tripping? There could be one. I don't think so. I read through them, and I think this actually is all of the major teams that we see. But if I forget one, just let me know as we're going through. But I do think this is all the main contenders, at least that we see on screen outside of like Itachiyama. There will be spoilers through nationals for sure here because we just need to talk about where some of these teams end up. But yeah, so we can kind of dive into it with a couple of these weaker teams right away. Um, and so this with our the first tiny giant, they're a perfectual contender level, right? Like I don't think they're definitely above that. Inurazaki's on here, right here. But yeah, this team, like they're pretty good, but they're definitely not near right like the top 3 teams that we see in the prefecture. Um and this the national prefecture winner level is kind of interesting because you get a team like this that definitely made it to nationals, but are they really like a national level team or are they prefectural winner? Because like they did win their prefecture and then they got trounced. 2 years in a row they've actually made nationals. So I feel like maybe we should put them on national level. Um yeah, totally agree with that team. Like they can go to the finals with a little luck, or to the semifinals. Yeah, like they're quality team, but it would be insane if they came out of the Miyagi prefecture. Um, yeah, it is true. That's kind of a weird. I didn't change these ones, so we can maybe change some of these because yeah, you're right. Like national level, like versus prefectural winner. Like I kind of see like where this is coming from, but what should we change this one to? Like this one's like or national level, maybe we change to, there's a difference between, like champion level and like top 8 national level, if that makes sense. Like I think maybe something like that, if I can spell. Like, let's do something like this, just so it's like I could see this team making top 8 versus them like winning, which is same with professional contender versus winner, I think. Um, yeah, or national contender. Yeah, maybe that makes sense. Yeah, let's move it to national contender. So it's consistent here. If I can spell here. Um, Yeah, I think national contender and think about it like, they maybe if the bracket falls their way, they could make top 8 or get close, which I think that puts this team perfectly in the professional winner level. Like they're good enough to make it to nationals. They're not good enough to make a dent at nationals. And so I think that's pretty good. Alba Josai is like the first. Those are kind of, there's gonna be a handful of teams that are like whatever, I think. And so the discussion gets a little bit more specific starting with Alba Josai. Um, they're definitely a winner level. Like, are they better than this team? Probably. Like, they don't get ran out of the gym. I don't think they're a national contender because they never made it to nationals. So, like, I don't think we can give them that benefit of the doubt, even though they are really, really close. Um, so the team you were thinking of was, yeah, they're pretty bad, but they are, you know, they do have their moment, right? They fill their purpose, but on this list, they will not make it very high. But yeah, is this kind of where y'all are thinking for Alba Josai? Like Oikawa's incredible. Awaizumi, we know he's a national level ace. Kandaichi's decent player. They've got Mad Dog, who, theoretically, by the end of the match against Krasno, they're utilizing him a bit better. So I do think that they definitely are a national quality team. Like I think they're definitely could have won their prefecture. They're very close to Krasno, who's very close. But yeah, they're not quite I don't think a national contender. That's a good spot. Shiro Torizawa was top 8 nationals, so they really were gate kept. Yeah, I think that's perfect. Yeah. Um, yeah, Awajosai is tough because in a different prefecture they would probably do better, but I think realistically wouldn't do so well at nationals. Um, yeah, yeah, I think it's true. Like when you think about Alba Josai and how they match up with some of these other teams, they just don't have the talent across the board that some of the other teams do have. Like when you think about Tanaka's role for Karasuno, like Tanaka would be such a huge upgrade for Alba Josai and Daiichi. Like that kind of consistency that they have is just like not something that Aoba Josai has, even though Mad Dog does give them an extra element, and Oikawa in his 3rd year is absolutely brilliant. So Date Tech is an interesting one. I think you have to put them behind uh, Aoba Josai at this time. We know that they're gonna go on to be even better, and so this is kind of like a middle ground, I think, because so we know the next semester they're really good, and we see them play against Karasuno in the practice match where they're a lot better even. And that's really up to Kagene's development at setter and his ability to be, really create the iron wall, but then also him getting good at setting is just like really critical for them. They've got their 3rd year ace. Their libero is going into his 2nd year, so he's very good. Like they're kind of resetting, and obviously they win the prefecture, so they're definitely on that level. But I don't think you can put them over Aoba Josai with Oikawa because they win that when Ushijima and Oikawa leave. Um, yeah, Date Tech did go to nationals, so I feel like you got to give them that respect, considering they must have been really good to beat Crossno that year. Very true, and that's with this team that like we see in this picture, but it's not because Oikawa's still there. I still think Aoba Josai is better. Like if Oikawa is in Iwaizumi, like I think those teams are better. And the Crossno team that we're going to be talking about has Asahi and Suga and Daiichi, which they didn't have the next year. So that's kind of where I'm thinking about it. Obviously, Inarizaki is a championship level, like without a doubt. And it's going to be interesting how we stack them because obviously they lose to Karasuno, but do we really think they're worse than Karasuno? Like these, Inarizaki has a really strong, really compelling argument to be the best team that we see at least play a full match in the series because, the Mia twins are unbelievable. So kind of a mix between manga. Like we'll take consideration into the end of nationals, but like that's only, a little bit, we're near the end of nationals in the anime. Uh but this is manga and taking in manga into account so we can include teams like Kamomedai and Mujin Izaka and things like that. Oikawa would raise any team to national level. Yeah, it's really true, and it's just like I just don't know if they're quite a contender. Um, Definitely. Inarizaki is definitely championship level. They should have beat Krasno. They just played too much for sure. Yeah, and so this is also where the idea of like if Krasno and Inarizaki played in like a best of 3 or best of 5 series, do we really think Krasno wins that series in the majority? Um, like maybe because obviously they grow so much every game, but also the Mia twins getting the freak quick just like added at random, and I know it becomes their downfall, but it's like the more that they play with that, they grow at a rapid pace. And you look at Aaron on the outside, so good. And yeah, Aaron alone was crushing when the whole plan for Crossno was to contain him. Yeah, like he's super good, and you have Osamu, like the depth that they have as a team is just unbelievable. Suna's arguably one of the best middle blockers we see in the series, and then Kita is, like he would be a huge upgrade for a team like Aoba Josai. Like he's a player that is on the bench, and he would be so fundamental to Aoba Josai's like ability to get over the hump and make it to nationals. So I think because of that, they're definitely a championship level. They're as good as any team we see. Itachiyama's a really hard one. Right now I'm thinking of putting, I guess that's a good question because I think there could be about 3 or 4 teams that make it to championship level because and we can decide if we want to move more down to national contender. Because I do think Inarizaki could have won the entire thing, and I think any team that feels like they could, even though they lose their first game, right? 'Cause don't they have a bye? Um, I think they could have won the entire thing. But if we get too many in championship level, we'll move a couple down to national contender. Uh, yes, Gabriel, what's the question? How did Krasno go to nationals in their 2nd year when Inarizaki beat them and Date Tech too? So they went, so they It's the next spring high. So Karasuno, it loses in the inner high in the anime, right? That's the first match that they when they lose to Abujosai. Then they win in the spring high. And then the next inner high, Date Tech advances. And then the next spring high, they lose to Inarizaki, is how it goes. Um, and so it's yeah, because it's like each year there's 2 tournaments, right? But it's just that some of the third and I don't know like fully, like I'm obviously not Japanese, so I don't know. The high school system it always seems like weird to me when third years end up like dropping out and not playing. Which is just like so different than how it is in America. Like no senior would ever not play, their sport. But yeah, so it's like 2 a year for 3 years. But often the seniors will leave that right that second half that we see with Date Tech's players. Yeah, so it's the inner high that they win. Hello, D. Luffy. Yeah, we got a power scale Haikyuu. I do think Oikawa bodies Madara. I think Oikawa bodies Aizen. He's the greatest villain in anime. uh, anyways, back to more seriousness. I think Inarizaki could have won it all. Definitely. And so I'm going to leave them at championship level. If we get over like 3 championship level, we can talk about moving some down because it's really a toss up between some of these teams, I think. Um, and so Itachiyama's obviously championship level. They're kind of a weird inclusion into this list because we know their pedigree, we know how good they are, but we never see them play. And this also comes into how we're thinking about teams. We're trying to remove variance from the conversation. And so a huge piece of variance for Tachiyama is that their setter gets hurt, who's arguably their best player in that tournament. And they end up losing a really close game. We see them wipe the floor with basically everyone else. Although I think they do go at least 4 sets with Fukuro Dani in the Tokyo. Does anyone remember? Do they go I don't think they beat Fukuro Dani in the Tokyo qualifiers in straight sets. I think it's 4, maybe 5. Yeah, you might be right that there will be more than 3 at championship level because we've literally got 2 already, and there's like a couple others that I think are just as good. So I might move some down, and Inarizaki might. Although that feels weird to put Inarizaki at like a national contender, like they're so good. But Itachiyama is one that's like hard to rank. Um, do you think if Seijo team, if they win spring tournament, they can go far in nationals? Like, I don't think so, right? Like, I don't think they're necessarily, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but there's no way they're beating Inarizaki, right? Like they are just not as good because they do not have the depth and they don't have the high ceiling. Like Oikawa is the only superstar player on the team where you're talking about Karasuno that has Hinata and Kageyama plus like Asahi and Awaizumi, like, are they really that different? Um, like, I don't know. Uh, I think Inarizaki should stay at the top. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, if we think that they legitimately could have won nationals, then I think they deserve to be there. Um, but yeah, Abujosai, I don't think is quite that next level. And so, yeah, I don't think they're going far at nationals at all. Like they just do not have the depth. Even though I wish they did, right? Like they just don't have the depth in the same way that Karasuno does. How do you feel about not seeing an Itachiyama match at the end? I think thematically it really works. I think in terms of really, really honing in on this idea that it's not guaranteed that the best player um, will advance is really really good, but I wish I would have seen them. Whoa, shout out to Marshall Fitness for the super chat. Thank you so much for the support. I really really appreciate it. That's very cool. I think it's the second super chat I've ever gotten, so thank you so much. And is Oikawa top 3 setter pre time skip, or does the lack of nationals hold him back? I think out of the setters that we see, he's third. I think he by the end, I think Kageyama's better. And I think Atsumu is definitely better. You also it is definitely hinted at that Itachiyama's setter is better, but we never see him play. So I think because of that, I put him at number 3 out of like the information that we have. But certainly like one of the best. He's definitely up to the national level. Like if you replaced him with Atsumu on Inarizaki, I definitely think like I don't think there's a huge drop off, and honestly they might improve in some places, and they're not maybe as explosive, but they're a lot more consistent, right? They have very different strengths. Inarizaki was called challengers and good at Shiratorizawa for a reason. Yeah, they're incredible and they're better. I think it's isn't it implied but not 100% confirmed that Inarizaki beat Shiratorizawa. Not gonna lie, I feel bad for Aikawa not making it to nationals. Yeah, me too. I love him so much. He deserves it so much. Um, D Luffy, for me, I was hoping that we saw Hinata and Kageyama against Sakusa and their superstar Libero. Yeah, Komori is their libero. Yeah, totally agree. Like it would have been really cool to see Itachiyama play, but I do think it fits in like our disappointment of not getting to see them play. It like reminds me of the disappointment of not getting to see like LeBron and Kobe play in the finals because of Dwight Howard stepping in, right? Like, something that we were robbed of. So it's just very fitting, I think. Um, is number one Itachiyama? I can't see clearly because of internet. Yeah, that's who we have number one. They're kind of hard to totally evaluate because we don't see them in a match. Like we don't get a ton of evidence on exactly how good the setter was or exactly how good Komari was. We just know off of status, and off of status, they are the number one team, and they lose because of variance. And right in this discussion, we want to try to leave variance out of it. Blue Pretzel Gaming, what's up? Good to see you. Itachiyama setter won the prize for best setter once. No, I think he did. Yeah, he's brilliant. And the only reason you can't like necessarily rank him with the others is because we don't get to see him play. Tenkai, good to see you again. Hello, hello. Pre-time skip or post-national? So this is the end of nationals, how we rank the teams. And so, but it's not just who won, right? Like we know who won, we know who loses, but really trying to evaluate how matches would go if these teams maybe played 3 or 4 matches in a row. So taking injuries out of it, taking people who play above their best out of it, I think is pretty important. But like kind of overall teams. Wait, we never got to see Karasuno versus Fukurodani in an official match. Good to see you as well, Zaya, and I hope we're not spoiling things for you. So I will answer the question in a moment, but if you don't want spoilers, pop out of the chat. But no, we don't. And so Komori is the best libero, probably him or Yaku. So this is just at the end of nationals. Yep, they're ranked number 2 going into the tournament, and those rankings definitely matter in how we're talking about the teams, but not necessarily the only consideration because teams evolve, teams play better or worse. Like we don't want to only go off of that, but Itachiyama's ranked number 1. It's hard not to put them at number 1 because we don't really have a ton of information otherwise. I like Yaku so much. For me, he can be the best libero in the series. Totally agree. Divine, hello. Thank you for joining. Same with you, Oliver. Love to see it. Who from Martial Fitness, again, another shout out. Thanks again for that super chat. Who is the most underrated player in your opinion? Wow, that's a really great question. Most underrated player. Oh, that's really tough. I think a Wiseman is a little underrated. Like he's a total complete ace. Let me think about it. If there's another underrated player, I'll shout him out. But I'll go with Wiseman for now. If Nishinoya did turn pro, would he be in Adler's or MSBY in your opinion? I don't know. I could see him playing overseas right away. I mean, he obviously, I think he's talented enough. Suga's a good underrated one for sure. All right, we should add a couple more here. And so this is the team that was being chat about. They literally are a first round loser. But shout out to I can't remember who put the comment about them in the chat, but shout out to them. And then here's an interesting one. I think I'll put they're definitely top of contender. They make top 4. Um, but I think with their style, it's just not possible for them to actually uh win nationals. Ooh, the Dante Tech ace. That's a very good one as well as an underrated player. He's really good. Ione, I think, is a little underrated. Like everyone, like when you talk about these big discussions of how good players end up getting, um, like everyone knows how good he is in season 1, and then you just like don't see him that much. But he's unbelievable, as good as any of the best national middle blockers. Kita, oh, Kita's so good. I really need to make a video on him. Um, but yeah, our 2-on-2 uh, ragtag team of boys, uh, they made a semifinals. That's probably their peak, so they're a contender. Excuse me. Uh, Good team, fun team. I just do not see them having the talent of everyone above them to compete. What Furadate did to Noya after the time skip surprised me. Every time I reread the series, the boy was wild and free from the start. Yeah, I love it's such an interesting ending for him. Really, really interesting. And if you guys haven't checked it out, I did talk about him on a video with Lessons from Anime. Shout out to Lessons. He's such a cool dude, and it was a lot of fun to make that video. And hopefully we'll collab again in the future, maybe on my channel. But I did talk about Noya and the idea of like being good means being free and how that applies to Noya's character. So that was a lot of fun, and you guys should watch that video. He talks about Hoshiumi. In the video, but it's all on that idea of being good means being free. uh Kaganagawa has so much advantage and is so bad at the same time. Yeah, like his height is so good, and but he's just so raw, right? But Date Tech's really the perfect place for him to succeed because they put so much pressure on you blocking wise that it just like if he gets, and I mean we see it with or we know about it in how they are able to make it in the inner high, but it's like just a little bit development from him and they're like really great. So Kamo Medai is a really interesting one. Do we think Kamo Medai is better than Inarizaki? Um, they might be, honestly, like they're phenomenal. Um, and the question of Cross Snow is also really interesting because they beat Cross Snow, but a lot of people feel like, and me included, arguably, that like Cross Snow was taking hold of that game. But their discipline is a lot more than Inarizaki's, and they have a similar talent level. They have a very good setter. They have the best middle blocker, I think, that we see in the series, outside of maybe Fukuro Dani's. And Hoshiumi is arguably better than Aaron, right? Like he is insane, at least on the same level. Um, and then you also have their 6-7 middle blocker. Like, man, it's so hard to get through. Yeah, Kamo Medai are taking Inarizaki 8 out of 10 times. Yeah, I think it might be more like 6 to 7. 8 might be a little much, but they're very close. Um, and yeah, like they're such a great blocking team, and I think Inarizaki would really struggle against their cohesion and their just like they never get up or down, and Inarizaki does. And I think even though Inarizaki might have a little more outward talent, um, Kawamedai is a lot to overcome. And I think like there's a lot of evidence that them and Karasuno, like Karasuno's still not better than them, even though they almost won. The 6'8 guy, if he were to join another team, which would get the best out of him, either Date Tech or Shiratorizawa. Yeah, I mean, Date Tech would be like a dream fit for him. And I think that would make a ton of sense. It he would, I mean, he'd fit in a lot of teams. Who would get the best out of him? I mean, I think Kamo Meta is probably already the perfect place for him just because, um, but man, him and Tendo, like having to deal with him and Tendo, you're right. Shiratorizawa would be really good. Um, Also, like imagining Oikawa playing with him is so good. Hoshiumi, better than Hinata. He's definitely better than Hinata at this point. Like, not even close, actually. Like, he is way better than Hinata. Um, and so I definitely think that. But I will stand by my opinion that even with all the subs and their wall, with Hinata and Tsukishima healthy, Krasno was winning that match. I think it's really close. Um, and so is a riled up Atsumu an asset or a hindrance? You know, it probably it's hit or miss. He's got a little mad dog in him, right? Like you just like don't know. Like you do know what you're gonna get. Like he's obviously an unbelievable player, but um yeah, like, that is the downfall of Inarizaki is that, would when you look at the isolated game against Krasno, it's like, okay, well, this is a specific time where they started doing something new and they almost won, but they lose with this quick. But it's like, how many games could that happen with? Like, could you get him more riled up? It's definitely really interesting. And I'm just looking at this. We're gonna have like 5 or 6 teams in championship level, like, because I don't think we've come to the best team yet. Um, I think in this game, Suna would be key for Inarizaki to win because we see that blocker struggle to stop him. So he might be able to break through Kamo Medai's wall. Yeah, that's definitely interesting and definitely like a legit. He would be really good, you know. But Suna did have issues though with Tsukishima, and it's like Tsukishima is such a lower level than the total blocking that we see with Kamo Medai. And so yeah, let's talk Krasno. And do we think so? This is actually where I would place Krasno, maybe behind Inarizaki. And I feel like I do have a little bit of reasoning for this. So, I still think if Hinata didn't get sick and their injury 50-50, maybe Krasno would have won. Like Krasno, they're very, very close. Um, yeah, Krasno in that third set, they do reach a new level, but I do think there's one key. So Hinata reaches a level that I feel like is very, like he's only going to get better, and it's if they say at the end of that Kamo Medai match, or that they end up playing like 3 more games or whatever. They do like a best of 5. Hinata, I think his play is, as long as he's healthy, is very repeatable. I think the one character, and it pains me to say this, whose play is not repeatable in that match is Asahi. Asahi reaches a new level that he reaches a flow state that I don't know if he's reaching as much, right? Like he plays so good in that match, and I love him so much, and I want to like believe that he would play that good consistently from now on, but I just don't think it's realistic to uh say that Asahi would be able to play like that. So as Hinata is getting better, I don't know if you're going to get like, I mean, Asahi's obviously very good and like would still be very good. But I think when we take that into consideration, I lean Kamo Medai slightly in terms of how many games that they would be able to win. And I actually think it's a little bit closer between Karasuno and Inarizaki. And I think I could be swayed that Inarizaki is overall better than Karasuno. But it's pretty close because, they're obviously Krasno feels like they're way better by the Kamo Medai match than they were against Inarizaki. But Inarizaki also, getting used to the freak quick, like which teams actually, you know, 10 out of 10 games, like it's pretty close, I think. But these 3 teams are all major toss up. Don't forget that Inarizaki kept trying new things. I don't know if that's their play style or if they were overconfident against Krasno. Yeah, I think it's a mix of both. Like, I think Atsumu went into that match with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder with Kageyama. Like, he feels that competition between the two of them, I think, more than Kageyama does. I mean, you see that with how he acts in the camp. And I think that led him to really trying to match the craziness of Kageyama and Hinata. And but he's still, I think, a better player at this point than Kageyama. And so if we match up like player for player, Inarizaki probably beats them out on talent, right? Like if I slightly lean Atsumu over Kageyama, and then you talk middle blockers, I slightly lean Suna over Suki or Hinata, and then maybe you take Hinata over the other middle blocker, so pretty close there, right? Aaron's better than Asahi. Osamu's definitely better than Tanaka, and then maybe you take Daiichi, and their libero is very good, but you probably take Noya. So like that's really really close, I think. Um, Here's a good one. Krasno lost versus Inarizaki because they lost so many big figures. Yeah, that's true. The next year, like, yeah, Krasno takes an immediate step back because Yamaguchi needs more time to develop, I think, into a really great player and the others. Who replaced Asahi or Yukai put Hinata on the wing? Yeah, I don't know exactly what they did in year two. I imagine Yamaguchi gets in the starting lineup, to be honest with you. Like, I think he's really, really good. Crossno is much greater than the sum of its parts. That's a very good point. They work really well together, and Hinata, frees everyone up. They play so great as a team. Yeah, I think you're right. So are you got is everyone good with kind of Kamo Medai? Like Itachiyama's kind of the honorary. Like Itachiyama's hard to talk about, but we've got Kamo Medai, Krasno, then Inarizaki. Are we good with that order? I mean, that is the order of like which teams won, which wasn't necessarily like I don't want that to be the only thing, but it is obviously a good piece of evidence. But I feel pretty good with that now. And now we can also kind of fill out the national contenders. Mujin Izaka is definitely a national contender. Very, very good. They're going to be near the top of this list, I think. But definitely weren't a championship level squad. Like you could see them sneaking into the top 8, but they are not doing anything after that, I don't think. Kiryu's obviously insane. They have a very good setter, and they have some quality players, but nothing crazy. I think Krasno got kind of lucky with having two people who understand the freak quick the most. If it wasn't anyone other than Hinata or Kageyama, they wouldn't have gotten through. I mean, it's really true. Like, there's a lot of variance in that match. But also, if they weren't doing the freak quick, then like Atsumu isn't like, yeah, like they wouldn't even have tried it. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Do you think Hinata got a chance of being an ace of the team in his third year? I mean, I think he might have been considered it. I think there's a good chance. I think that could be a reason why we don't like see it. But yeah, I don't think like I think he's definitely ace in terms of points scored. I still think he is probably used as a decoy often. Always in his life. Uh Maybe a Noshida wing, Hinata opposite, and Yamaguchi mid. Yeah, that could be kind of interesting. Yeah, it would be really. I would love to know what the starting lineup was. Like that would be such a good like little tidbit for him to put out there. So I'd love that. I can't imagine a first year who had the same characteristics as Aussie. Yeah, Aussie is a big loss for them because he just like he fills that role so perfectly, and his combination with Hinata is so good that even though he's not on the level of an Aaron or a Hoshiumi or the other top 4 aces that we see, he's able to play that way because of Hinata often, I think. Oh, but Tanaka is definitely the ace that year. It would be the third year if Hinata took it up. Yeah, I think Hinata's opposite makes the most sense, especially with his receiving getting better, for sure. And they can also kind of protect him a little bit, like they do Ushijima, right? Mujin Izaka is a national contender. They made top 4, losing to Inarizaki and lost to Fukuro Dani, who made the finals. Yeah, maybe they are. I feel like this version of them. So were they top 4 in the inner high? I feel like I don't remember exactly where they placed. Because they lose in the top. When do they lose? When do they play Fukuro Dani? Is it top 16? Is it top 8? I feel like it's top 8, isn't it? Because it's mirrored. So, but I feel like I just don't see them winning. So I don't think so national contender. I feel like I read that wrong. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that they're very good. They could make top 4, maybe get lucky, but they're not. They're never winning. Angela, thank you again for showing up. Shout out to Angela, who's the first member of the channel. I'm going to need to catch up to the VOD later because I got kiddo activities today. Wanted to pop in to say hi. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it's good to see you in the chat. And have fun with the kiddo activities. They made top 4 in inter high. I'm not sure. Did they for Mujin Izaka? And then I think the nature of nationals fits what real sports feel like. That's why many people surprise Krasno won against Inarizaki because stuff like that happens in the Real world too. Yeah, definitely. Like this conversation is taking out a fundamental aspect of what sports is, which is variance. And especially volleyball has a ton of variance because so many of the tournaments are knockout games, right? Like any sport that has one game, win or go home, like it's never necessarily the best team that comes away with it, right? Like it's um things happen and people get hot, people get cold, people get hurt, and so that's why we're kind of trying to take it into like a series perspective. Um, how much money would you pay to watch Hinata's second and third year playing? Too much, too much for sure. They have a top three ace and probably have an arguably top five blockers at nationals. Yeah, I mean it's true. They're a very good team. I think low key Daiichi's the greatest loss. Yeah, his defense is a lot, but Hinata at least getting better helps. I mean, they definitely just take a step back, losing so many third years. Like that's really hard to overcome for any team, I think. Do you think in Hinata's later years he goes to national training camp just like Kageyama did? I don't. I don't think so because I think if he did, he wouldn't be going to Brazil. Right? Like if he was perceived to be like one of the best outside hitters, um, I think I don't necessarily know if he goes to Brazil because there's probably other opportunities for him to take up. Um, the team which nationals should have been introduced. I don't think so. I think it really works. I think it's one of the coolest parts about the national arc is that we don't know the team that wins. I think it's really fundamental to what Furodate is trying to show us. Even though we don't get like the immediate hype, but that's made up for, I think, with the post time skip match. Um, I think Mugen Izaka should switch with Krasno, especially in its first year version of Krasno's national team. So you think Krasno should move down to national contender? I guess that is a good question. Like, do we really think Krasno could have won? Like, probably not, honestly. Maybe they should be top a national contender. Like, I just don't know if they have the experience to actually win nationals in their first year. Like, that's pretty tough. So maybe you're right. Maybe they should be. I think they're better than Mugen Izaka. Um, but maybe they should be below Inarizaki at the top national contender. Um, which team's philosophy do you most agree with? Like an example, Nekoma's philosophy of keeping up the ball, or Shiro Torizawa's emphasis on height and power. I think Nekoma's connect is the best philosophy. I think it's really interesting, just like uh, the importance of connection, and I love the idea of the maximizing the potential of the brain and things like that. All really good. I love Fukuro Dani, or more it comes through Akashi's task focus. I think that's really, really good. And something that like I try to do to help myself, right? Um, so uh they absolutely can. Is that in reference to we think Krasno can win nationals? Um we can maybe talk about it later if we don't want too many at the championship level. But let's add a few more on here. I think Nekoma's very solidly a national contender. Um, I don't believe they win nationals, but I believe that if Hinata was healthy, they would have beat Kamo Medai. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think there's a very good chance that they win that specific match, even if I think Kamo Medai might be a better overall team because Aussie plays so good. Um, yeah, like if they can't win nationals, then they're not a champion level, right? So I think that yeah, I think we could move some things around, but also Krasno feels another level above a team like Nekoma. But Nekoma is a solid national contender, I think, because they make it far, they make it into the top 16, and they played a very good match against Krasno. Like I think they're a very solid team. They might end up being near the bottom of national contender, but I do think Nekoma is phenomenal. Um, How do you think they're going to fit the rest of the manga in the last movie? Yeah, I don't even know. Like I'm hopeful that they do OVA episodes for Fukurodani versus Mugen Izaka and then just do a movie for through the Kamo Medai match, and then we get another movie for the post time skip. It's kind of interesting. There was I think it's unlikely, or like I'm surprised that they're would try to rush it. Like, I feel like all these movies are gonna be super profitable for them. Haikyuu is still selling in the top 10 of all manga in the world, and it ended, like, what, 4 years ago? 3 years ago? So 3 years ago, I think. Um, so I just don't see why they wouldn't try to make more movies of it. Like, why wouldn't they wanna make more content out of it? And so I'm hopeful that they realize that, and that's what they do. Um, uh What do you think about Hinata making Japan national team? Because in real life, there's no little giants in the big leagues. Um, I mean, I think it's cool for the story, and also, how tall does Hinata actually get? Because if he's like near, is does he, like it is tough, like him actually making that, um, but I do think it works great for the story. I have a question on Nekoma. So to make them basically lose the option is to make their setter Kenma run for his money now. Uh, yeah, like I just think overall talent wise, Nekoma is like good, not great. Like they are a great team. I think there's a lot of cracks, honestly, in their team from if you have overwhelming talent to be able to beat them. And I think Krasno kind of showed that by the end of the match. Um, I can't see Krasno beating the rank 2 team and be that dominant against such a powerhouse and not giving them the benefit of the doubt. Um, there has been talks of extra OVAs. Very, very hopeful that that is the case. I mean, that's how it would be insane, but so much of like Bokudo's plot could be in OVAs. Uh, I think we're misunderstanding the fact that it's insane for Krasno even going into the top 8. They were beat by a week, in my opinion, Date Tech only 8 months ago, and going top 8 is an insane achievement. Yeah, it really is. So maybe at the end we'll move them down. Is this the cheater team? Which team is this? Like, why can I not tell? Yeah, so I don't think it's that insane that he ends up playing, because he's just too much of a stud, right? Do you think Lev would be Nekoma's ace? I think in name, honestly, Lev doesn't get quite as good as I thought he would, especially when he was first introduced. Um, but he's obviously a very good player. Which team is this? Why can I not tell? They're obviously not a first round exit. I feel like is this the cheaters? Like it's gotta be because we've got the team that Nekoma plays. We've got I don't know what the 6-7 team. Yeah, okay, it is. Okay. Uh no Habi, is if that's how you pronounce it. They're the cheaters. They're definitely a professional winner level. They could be better than um they I'll lean Alba Josai because I like Oikawa. But do we think I don't know if do we think they're better than Alba Josai? Like they're definitely a contender. Like they took 4th in Tokyo. That's insane. Uh did Dutch Tech make it fairly deep in nationals in Hinata's second year? I don't know if we know how deep they made it. But they're very good. Like they're definitely I don't really think they're a contender though. Like I don't see them making it top 8. I don't think they're as good as Nekoma. They're like a worse version of Nekoma. Like they're really good at like blocking, where Nekoma's really good at receiving and just like total defense. But I think Nekoma's just a little better than them, and so I don't think they're quite up to that level, especially this version of Date Tech. Yo, shout out to my goat, my rapping goat. Good to see you. Thanks for joining the chat. Um, it's hard to rank them due to the fact that we haven't seen at their best. Yeah, very, very true. Um, oh, so they do go to the third round. That's pretty good. And this is also a slightly worse version of them. So, they could be top of professional winner or national contender maybe if we waited till if we were ranking them at the inner high, but then we wouldn't be able to add Asahi and Daiichi to this. So Krasno would be way lower. Um, apart from the superstars, which players had the most potential, for example, Lev, Date Tech setter, 6'8" guy. Um, yeah, I mean, 6'8" guy for sure, because he actually becomes an incredible player. The take it easy guy, he's super good. Um, Lev is, one that his potential doesn't necessarily pay off, and I think Nishinoya is one who had, like, great potential to be, I think everyone agrees that he could have been a great pro. Um, but yeah, I actually think the one with the superstar potential, he definitely is, because he becomes a superstar, the, take it easy 6'8" guy. Krasno is the ultimate Cinderella team. Yeah, they really are, and if we're talking trying to remove variance, it's really hard to have a Cinderella team, right? Like, you think about the NBA, Cinderella teams are so rare because you have to be good, 4 out of 7 games. Um, but obviously that's not something you really see in volleyball in the structuring. Like, you don't see series in the same way. At the beginning of the Adler Jackals match, it stated that Hinata played all 3 years at middle blocker, knowing that uh, who would fill the opposite or outside hitter 2 position. Uh, well, then I think it would be, I think Yamaguchi gets in there pretty quickly, honestly. I think he has a really good work ethic, and I think his second year, or at least by the spring high, he's starting for them. Oh, Kendaichi definitely didn't reach his potential. Definitely, definitely, definitely. Um, for sure. No, I don't think so. He's plays a Division 2. I think there's middle blockers who are better than him, for sure. Um, at the beginning of the Adlers match, oh, yes, yeah, I'm gonna go Yamaguchi definitely starts for them quickly. Oh, yeah, that's I love that, development, like, that's really cool for him. And I feel like that's, like, a common thing that you see at least in American sports, which is the best players start, like, when you're younger, you play the star role, and then eventually you get moved back. It's like every kid, all of the best players on team, like, wants to play striker or attacking midfield, in world football. But then when you get a little bit older and the talent gets better, you like start moving back. And that's I feel like a similar thing where it's like you're just a really talented player. When you're playing at a mid-level high school, you're their best spiker. But if you want to go up to the next level, you might have to switch to a position that doesn't get all of the like overly powerful people. Oh, Division 3 for him. Honestly, still pretty good though. Like, I'm proud of him. Let's talk Fukuro Dani, because so obviously they're, at worst they're here. There's an argument that they should be above, because Bokudo is very different. The Bokudo that plays against Tachiyama in the Prefectural tournament is a very different player than the Bokudo who is playing at the end of nationals. Like, he's on another level, honestly, and his consistency is so good. Like, they are definitely better than Kamomedai, Karasuno, and Irizaki. Like, I think they're wiping the floor with them. That might be a little aggressive, but they're definitely beating them. And I think they might be the best team that we see in the entire series because of Bokudo's development. It feels like the reason that they're not quite there is because Bokudo just hasn't quite reached the next level. But when he does, like, he's as good as any high schooler we see. Like him at the end of Mujin Izaka, he's as good as anyone, honestly. Like, maybe not quite Ushijima, but close. Um, um, Fukuro Dani's championship level, once Bokudo fixed the mentality during Mujin Izaka match, I believe he became the best hitter in Japan. Combine that with 2 top 10 or 5 level setter and hitter. Yeah. And their middle blocker is brilliant, right? Like, he is super good. He just doesn't get a ton of development, but we know his talent level. Also, like, I feel like we had like the same opinion on that. So I love that before I read yours. Cause yeah, I think it's a wash between him and Sakusa. Um, like, maybe I think we leaned Sakusa just on like reputation in our last week's video. But yeah, I think Bokudo, it's a wash there. Akashi's brilliant. not probably quite as good as a Tachiyama setter. They don't have Komori, but they have just like amazing all around. Like they're a great team, and they were already really close. So I lean Fukuro Dani. But also it's hard because we never watched Tachiyama. Uh, Bokudo was best ace in Japan, in my opinion. Um, yeah, love to see it. I agree. He's my guy, even though we didn't put him a little bit higher last week. Like he's my guy. What if Oikawa never moved to Argentina? Do you think Oikawa would get attention in Japan? I mean, I do think that great players find a way. Um, I do think Oikawa is good enough to get on a, it might have taken a different route. It would have been interesting though, because it's like, then you're talking so many great setters. But I do think Oikawa still would have made a name for himself. I just think he would have been behind Kageyama. Which two bad players, if combined, would be a good, great player, and what level would that combined player be? That's really interesting. I don't know which two bad players. Um, I mean, obviously, if you took like the setting of or the serving of Yamaguchi and applied it to, another non-complete player, they would be really good. Like Inuyoka, would become a great starter, I think, pretty quickly. Just like a ton of value there, right? Just realized at the end of the manga, all players that go overseas go countries that have similar players or teams that suit their style. Ushijima, Poland, yeah, definitely. Kakiyama, Italy, top setters. Yeah, I think that's a really great question. It shows how Furodate just like loves volleyball, right? Like he's really in tune with how it is, how world volleyball is played, which is really cool. I think both mids become pro in Division One. Yeah, Fukuro Dani's stacked. And I think they're the best team in the series. No, I think because the national committee never got to see him play in nationals, that they choose better younger players, so it would be better to move to Argentina. I do agree that the move definitely makes more sense to Argentina, but I do think he would have made his way. I think he would have found a way to impress, and if you're good enough, like you're good enough, but and I think it does show. But you're right, it would have been a lot harder when also he has such a close connection with the coach. And so just like getting going there, was definitely the best move for him. And also shout out to your Gojo profile picture. I'm sad Jujutsu Kaisen's on hiatus. But I'm very excited to see how it ends here. The next couple weeks, maybe we'll talk some chapters. The next couple Sundays would be pretty fun, I think. Who is more precise, accurate player, Bokudo or Goshiki? I think Bokudo is, even though Goshiki is really close. Like, I love Goshiki, but Bokudo's ability to hit insane cross and line shots, it's more than any other ace we see in the series. They're not better than Tachiyama, especially since there's one of the few who actually won nationals. Also, they actually have a confirmed top 3 setter, hitter, and libero. I mean, it is true, but what's the score when they play? Do they go to 4 or 5 sets? But I do think I think you're right. Like Itachiyama is the one that we're leaning towards. Like it would make the most sense to put them there. But I think Bokudo's development and their Fukuro Dani's team overall, like I just feel like they're so good. And so I'm gonna give them the nod, but like it's hard to argue with Tachiyama because we just know, oh, these are the rankings of them. Like we don't get to see them play. But with Bokudo's development, I think it's definitely I'm gonna lean them. No, I don't think so, to be honest, considering that there's Mia and Kageyama there. Yeah, for the Oikawa discussion. Yeah, let's see. Kagane with Suga, yeah, get some height in there. That'd be really, really great. Yeah, Yamaguchi serving, Kenma's brain. Yeah, Kenma mixed with any athlete, right, would be insane. It was so, so good. I made my girls volleyball team this year because we don't have a boys team. Well, very cool. Uh, really cool seeing other countries in Haikyuu. Yeah, love that. I love how realistic it is on like, you know, the journey of a volleyball player. If you want to play professionally, you're going to be going overseas, very, very likely, and playing in different leagues. I wish we could see what happened after nationals, seeing Krasno against Itachiyama. Yeah, would have been really cool. For sure. I felt bad for Aikawa during Olympics, seeing all of his enemies all teamed up across the net. Oizumi, uh, as the coach is the nail in the coffin, yeah, and yet he's still balling out. Itachiyama actually was behind Inurazaki in the inner high, but threw the lead in a match due to their moody first and second years. Yeah, that's the moody first and second years. Too much for Inurazaki. Um, yeah, like I think Itachiyama's beatable. Um, and so I definitely, yeah, I lean Fukurodani. I because they get consistent and they're so talented overall. Do you watch real life volleyball? So definitely the VNL I watch every year. I haven't watched as much leagues, but I feel like I should because I follow like so many other sports like basketball and both footballs and things like that. So I tend to be like VNL's the perfect time where there's like not a lot of other events going on, but I really should follow leagues more than I do because I just it's really fun watching volleyball. I really should just like pick a team in each country and vibe. Because I love supporting a team and just like for no reason. Because like where I grew up, there's no professional team anywhere near me. Um, so I've always just like picked a professional team based off of like my favorite teams are all just based off of like my friend's favorite team or my, relatives' favorite teams. So I love just like picking a random team and just vibing with it. But he won. I don't think Oikawa won Olympics. It's not suggested who actually won. It's just that they're like very good, and we can just like we know how quality Argentina has been historically. Um, who do you think Hinata? Love life with Hinata. I don't know. I like to think him and Kageyama. To be honest with you. They're the perfect match for each other. I managed to hit a spike over the block Friday for the first time. Felt great. Well, congrats. That's so awesome. Shout out to Tenkai. You truly love to see that. I really need to play a lot more volleyball. My high school sport of choice and the sport that I'm by far the best at is actually golf. Uh, which is kind of funny. Everyone who meets me, they're like, "Really, golf?" But yeah, I am a big time golfer. That's by far my best sport. Fave in real life volleyball player, Micah Christensen. I love watching him set. I'm obviously an American, so I love or I lean Americans. Like I adore Micah Christensen and Eric Shoji. I really like TJ DeFalco for them. Like I'm excited to see his growth. Um, but like talking other nations, Nishida's my favorite on the Japan's team. Love him. And I love Leon for Poland, and that's why it was so brutal in the Olympics because he's been such a great player throughout his career. Do you think there's ever going to be an OVA expansions after the time skip? Hinata's sister apparently gets really good, but I don't think we know much about it. Um, yeah, that's definitely would be really fun. I would love to see just like any chapters for Adate wants to throw out there. I'd love to do it. Um, Yo, have you ever tried playing volleyball IRL? Like, yeah, definitely played volleyball a handful of times, and like it just played it very casually, which is always really fun. But I really should play it more. Um, we do love a fellow Nishida and Christensen fan. Yeah, they're so good. Like, yeah, very great, and love watching Leon too. Movie Meals shout out. My brother and Movie Meals are in the chat. Give him a shout out. There he has a if you guys like movies, you should check out his channel doing movie reviews. Shout out. Thank you for joining the chat. Who do you think's the best team in Haikyuu? Also, I know you're not a manga reader. You might get some spoilers, but it's good to see you. Um it is funny. I played Rec last year and got addicted now trying to play competitive in Uni. That's really cool. Yeah, I really should. There's so many Rec leagues, where I live that it's like, why do I not go play more um, competitively? Really, really cool. So let's throw out. You should watch Hajime no Ippo. I've seen a handful of it. I weirdly haven't seen it all, but yeah, I really would love to finish it. So good. Uh, so some of these, this is the 6-8 team. They're a first round loser at this point for sure. This is, I think, do we think the Nekuma team's a national contender? So this is the team that they played who plays in a similar style. Like, I feel like they're pretty good. Maybe they're professional winner level. But I think they're a very, very solid team. Um, and I think we see that throughout. So I feel pretty good about putting them there. Yeah, they're not really shown more of the two training camp teams. So I'm gonna put them in professional winner level because like they're in Tokyo, but I'm gonna put them in the bottom. Uh, like they're good teams. I don't know. Is there a ton of evidence suggesting that they're a lot better than this? Like it's just like they're good, same level as Alba Josai. Yeah. I mean, but do we feel comfortable putting them above Date Tech when we know like where they're going? Um, oh, for Nekuma team. Okay, okay. Nekuma team, same level as Alba Josai, so maybe putting them here. I feel like we need more national contender. Recommending a volleyball league and team, Italia Superliga. I do not know how to pronounce that, but I will look into them. Oh yeah, they sound. Oh, and Ishikawa's on the team. All right, I'll check them out for sure. Definitely. Put Broccoli Head Training Camp School a little higher. Their middle blocker is a national training camp player. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that's yeah, they're actually a lot better than honestly. Like they're like probably here. It's surprising that they didn't make top four. Well, I guess that they let's put them there. Yeah, you're right. I always forget about the second Broccoli Head. I always forget about it. Does Hoshiyumi, Kiryu, and Sakusa's team get a lot of matches in pre-time skip? Um, they get some. Uh, Kiryu and Hoshiyumi get some for sure. Which team is this? Is this the first team that they play? Kind of looks like it. They're bad. So now I don't know how Shiratorizawa ended last, but they're clearly number one. No, I think I feel like they're right here. Um, they're definitely like it's funny that they don't make it to nationals, but they're definitely a national contender. They're a brilliant team. And they're definitely better than Nekuma, I think. Like I think they beat Nekuma. And I think that right, doesn't Kenma kind of agree? They're like, "Do you really think we could have beaten Shiratorizawa? Do you really think we could have beaten Inarizaki?" Um yeah, I think this is a pretty good spot for them. Kiryu it's interesting them against Mugen Azaka. Bring Crossno down. I think you're right. Like I feel like we don't want too many contenders. Like I feel like this looks pretty good. I don't know. What do y'all think about this? So, uh, we can kind of talk about a little bit national contender first spot. Yeah, I think that is right for them. Like I think Inarizaki and maybe Inarizaki should be national contender top spot. Um, if we want to like make champion level a little more specific. Um, but yeah, I think it's so real quick between Shiratorizawa and Mugen Izaka. I lean Mugen Izaka. I think their setter's a little bit better than Shirabu. Kiryu isn't that much worse than Ushijima. Uh, Tendo's probably slightly better, but Goshi's just a bit younger. And so if Goshi had gotten better, I think if he was a little bit older, that they would definitely be slightly higher. But because of that, like their Libro's just okay. Their other middle blockers just okay. And so because of that, I lean Mugen Izaka. I feel like Crossno would need a legendary run where everyone is peaking to win. National champs should be the ones expected to win consistently. Um, Who's second? That's Mugen Izaka. I know you can't see Kiryu because it's like cut off, but that's them with the guy on the left has like the like a-okay like good block on Bokudo. Yeah, yeah. I think I view Shiratorizawa. Yeah, like I agree with that. I view them very similarly to um, Mugen Asaka. Mugen Asaka, Shiratorizawa, I think are really close. I think really when we're tiering this, like I think Nekuma's like a half a step behind those, and Karasuno's a half a step above those, right in that tier. But I do feel kind of I feel like it makes sense for Karasuno being a national contender. Like I just don't see them winning the entire thing. Where like the only reason Inarazaki's not number one is like they're a little moody, right? Like they're a little inconsistent, and that inconsistency did bite them early against a national contender. But it's like I feel like it's a very likely thing that if Inarizaki won that match, that they could have gone on a tear. And I just think Kamometa is kind of a bad matchup for them, so I lean Kamometa because they're so consistent. And then Fukuro Dani, I lean over Itachiyama because of Bokudo's development. Underrated player. Fuguro Dani's opposite is the best subset in the series. He's really good. And I think that's another reason. Like, I think all of Fukuro Dani's like honestly just like a little bit underrated. But when you read about them versus Mugen Izaka, you're like, wow, this team is really, really good. To be fair, if you ask Karasuno if they could beat Shiratorizawa before they won, they'd also say they'd lose 100%. And it's really interesting because like they obviously score way less points, right? Because their third set, they get demolished, so like they're really close. Obviously, though, Karasuno gets a lot better, over the next few months. And so maybe that's why, but also Goshki would have gotten better. So maybe, that team for Shiratorizawa goes up just a little bit. I don't know why I feel like swap Mia Twins team to Shiratorizawa. I feel like they're too good for that. They're too deep and too talented to not be at least in the top 6 or top 5. Like they're definitely better than Shiratorizawa because they actually isn't it hinted that they beat them the year before, and we're talking pretty similar cores. Although we don't know what Shiratorizawa third year's left. I swear, at least in the anime, only Boku no Nakashi get any attention in Fukuro Dani. Feels like the rest are role players. Yeah, so I think the you get a little bit of the in the OVA of the Everything boy, which is the guy on the right here, who's really, really solid. And him and his pal, I think, are really good. And you get a little more in the match against Fuguro or against Mugen Izaka. But also we know that the middle blocker, at least one of them is like really, really great. And the libero is really good. So I think because of that, Fukuro Dani's teams, and they're also really close to Itachiyama in the qualifying. And you're talking about your best player being in kind of an inconsistent mess where like you don't know from set to set what he's going to be offering to becoming a force of consistency, right? Like in Bokudo. And I think that's why I feel like they're the best team. Yeah, he is awesome. So yeah, I feel pretty good about this ranking. Is there anything that anyone is really like, oh, I feel like this should be changed or that should be changed? Or are you all feeling pretty decent about these rankings? Like, I'm going to keep Fukuro Dani as number 1. Would Fukuro Dani get better or worse if they swapped Bokudo with Ushijima 1-for-1? I mean, if we're talking Bokudo with his mood swings, obviously they get way better. Bokudo after, I think it's a toss up, and I think you can't necessarily replace like, if you're assuming that like Akashi is as close with Bokudo, with Bokudo as he would be with Ushijima, like I feel like, I don't know. It's a toss up. I don't think it would change that much with the final version of Bokudo, because I think the final version of Bokudo is as good as Ushijima, honestly. I think they're very close. I think in terms of competing in nationals, I think Shiratorizawa is better than Nekoma, but if they faced, I think Nekoma would win due to their defensive schemes and experience being really good. Yeah, that would be a great matchup. Shiratorizawa's really Gochki half a step of development away from being like incredible. I feel like I lean Shiratorizawa in that match, but it like Tendo's unpredictability versus I feel like Kenma might have kind of a hard time reading him. I don't know. Although I guess Hinata is a bit unpredictable. And like, do you think Tendo would have the same effect on Kenma that Hinata did, of just like doing something different every game? Like that's what hypes Kenma up is that, every game Hinata's different. And it's like, obviously, Tendo's not developing his skill as rapidly, but he's doing crazy things all the time. And that, just like cracks me up. And I think would be really interesting. Rion is shown to be a well-rounded outside hitter. How do you think he rates against other outside hitters? That's a great question. I'm not sure which character is that. Rion? Why am I forgetting that character name? Um, Remind me which team he's on, and then I can give you my take. Um, what would be the best upgrade Shiratorizawa could make? Get a better libero, change setter, or have a more skilled outside hitter too? Very interesting. I mean, I think Shiratorizawa. So it's the guy that we don't see. Um, I think he's not as good as he should be. Honestly, like we don't see enough from him. From Rion. Um, yeah, third year. Yeah, not a star player. I mean, I think still Shiratorizawa setter is probably the place that they could really get a lot out of because maybe, you know, Rion and Goshiki are held back a little bit by Shirabu overplaying Ushijima. Um, so I think that's one area. I think second middle blocker is another. Like, I think they just needed one more piece, right? Like, you've got, like, Shirabu's good, Rion's good, their Libero's good, their second middle blocker is good. I think any third or, a fourth, right? Because you got Ushijima, Tendo, and Goshiki, who I rate really highly. I think if you had one more player in there that's really great, like they have a lot of depth in terms of good players. I think one really great player, whether it's a setter who demands attention like Oikawa, or it's another middle blocker like Ione or something like that, could totally have taken them to a champion level, honestly. I think it's the opposite. Yeah. I mean, that definitely could be, where it is. But yeah, I think Shiratorizawa is just another really great player away from being like insane. Like they're obviously a very good team. They're definitely a national contender team, and I think they beat. I think they would outlast Nekuma. I want to see what Semi could do. He has a jump serve, apparently more talent than Shirabu. If you play him plus a more consistent attacking middle, they could have squad depth. Yeah, I think maybe if they had another hitter, they would rely on him more over Shirabu because he is better. I believe even if Akashi is on Shiratorizawa, they're better than half the teams. Yeah, I mean, like Akashi would have been a great upgrade, and he's so good. Yeah, I mean, like Shirabu's just like good, but not quite good enough. But yeah, I think they're better than Nekuma. I don't feel comfortable putting them above any of the other powerhouses that we actually see this specific year, but they're a very good team. Yeah, they need a setter who can mix up how hitters approach due to them losing. Krasno was able to come up with a defensive plan early. Very true. Yeah, I think Shirabu's the clear place that you look to see, like, oh, let's make an upgrade there. But I do think a phenomenal player at the other positions could have done that as well. But I mean, obviously, Oikawa's the person that that I wish played there. Everyone does. Yeah, I think it's interesting. It could be, I don't know, is it a grades thing, you think? For our 6'8" guy. I wonder if the 6'8" guy transfers there or something later on, after the training camp. Like, what if the training camp's actually just like, I'm going to convince everyone to transfer here? Yeah, that'd be kind of funny. Akashi feels like the best true support setter, like Kakiyama, Atsumu, Oikawa feel like star players who can carry. Akashi feels like what setters in real life do. Yeah, he really is that next level of, he doesn't overtake the game. He doesn't command everyone to dance to his tune or really elevate players in a way that others do, but he's so good. And he is just like the best non-star really in the series, like him and maybe like Osamu. I feel like Osamu's like a non-star, but like a star as well, more because of his name. Those two I think of just like so good. They don't end up going to the next level. Maybe they could have, but they have, other ambitions, but they're right there as perfect support pieces. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this ranking's pretty solid. Um, I think it makes sense to have Kurosano lower than Inarizaki, even though they beat them. I think in a series of 7 or a series of 10 or whatever, like Inarizaki's talent level and experience probably outweighs um, Kurosano's, and I think Kamo Medai is insane. I think they're so good, and Asahi did reach a level that's probably he can't consistently reach in that match. So even though Hinata really develops a lot in a way that I feel like he can continue to reach, um, that those two teams are really close. I think all three of them are really close, and that's why we had Krasno up there for a while. But I feel like you all convinced me of like what kind of the gut feeling is, which is it's pretty unlikely Krasno actually makes it all the way because they just don't have the experience from their star players. Where we know the Mia twins and that team has gone far before. We know Kamo Medai has the ability to do it. Atachiyama, of course, we know, and then Fukuro Dani, and we know how far they go, and I think they really do become the best team. Which player that goes pro shocked you most? Um, I don't think if anyone like really shocked me. That's a good question. I mean, Suki being level 2 is pretty shocking, I think. Like it's just really great to see him reach that level. I think Osamu not playing was a little shocking. Like not necessarily like it is kind of hinted at, but it's still like, man, you're so good. Osamu was a star player considering he was stated to be on par with Atsumu, who is shown to be top 3 all around. Yeah, maybe he is. He just feels like he's not quite the same level when you see, but maybe it's because he's just surrounded by Atsumu and Aaron, right? That he feels to me like he's like more of just like a really great player. But he is really good, of course. Krasno winning nationals would be like uh, Bulgaria winning the Olympics. Sick young talent, but nowhere near as developed or consistent as the top 4. Yeah, it's just so hard to totally win everything, and matchups are also really important. And yeah, it's just unlikely that Karasuno makes it. I mean, it'd be, and there's good evidence for it because they don't even win their 3rd year, even though they probably have a really great team around them. Oh yeah, Nishinoya not being pro shocked me. Yeah, that shocked me as well. Because you just like assume he's going to be, but I think it's important to have players who could have gone pro who don't. Um, yeah. So, any other questions for me as we kind of wrap up this stream? This one's a little bit shorter than the character rankings, a few less teams to talk about. And yeah, so expect, like I said at the beginning, for anyone who wasn't there, I have a video on Ping Pong the animation coming out later today, so make sure to check that out. And then I've posted, my posts have slowed a little bit because I had some copyright issues on the channel. I don't want to risk anything like super drastic happening to the channel, so I'm being pretty specific on the videos that I'm making and what studios kind of I'm making videos about and stuff, and so I don't want to risk anything happening, especially for the next couple months here. So you might see a little less like short content and things like that coming out, but that means I might do more streams like this, which are just like no risks with copyright. But there will be some more Haikyuu videos coming up soon. I've got a handful that I've kind of been thinking about, and so hopefully one later this week will come out. So yeah, I'll keep everyone posted on the copyright situation, and nothing. Hopefully there's just like nothing to post about, like it's just okay. But yeah, so yeah, let me know if you have any other ideas for streams. I really like doing these Sunday morning streams. I think they're really, really fun. And a lot of people seem to be joining in, which is really cool. It would be cool to see you do reaction to some people Haikyuu hot takes. Yeah, that would be really good. I wonder where the best place to do that would be. Like maybe post about it on my community, and we can go through things like that. That could be a pretty fun portion of the stream. I know I'll be talking Jujutsu Kaisen as well down the road, so my Jujutsu Kaisen fans, be prepared for that, because like we got to talk about the manga as it's ending. But yeah, I do want to do a read through of Haikyuu down the road, but I don't know if I'd be able to do it on YouTube because of copyright. And so I might be launching a Twitch down the road. I also might be launching a second channel just to ensure safety with all these copyright issues. But hopefully, like, I can post like clips there and things like that if, everything goes smoothly. But so I could be launching a Twitch and streaming both to YouTube and Twitch because of that. But yeah, that would be a fun one. Hot takes. Have you made an all-star team video? Like what rosters would you make? Yeah, that would be really fun to do. Uh, yeah, very, very fun to do because I have, all those shorts that did so well on talking about like the all-star roster and like who's best each year. Um, yeah, we could do a draft with like chat, you know, um, where like we each pick a player. I'll pick a player, y'all pick a player, um, and things like that could be pretty fun to see which team's the best. Imagine a Jujutsu Kaisen hot takes would be wild. Yeah, that would be really fun. I just if I could get if there's a good place to like look at hot takes, like I don't know if I have enough followers on Twitter, but you guys can follow me on Twitter at Annie Essays. But I don't know if I have enough followers to get like enough to do a full reaction stream. But it would be really fun. Uh, where do you think Shiro Torizawa and Awa Josai end up in Hinata's second and third year? They kind of fall off a little bit. Um, like Shiro Torizawa just has Goshiki. Like they need, and I'm sure they're getting good players every year, but I don't know if they're quite too good. And then I think Awa Josai falls off even more. Like without Oikawa, like they're nothing. They should have had Kageyama, and it's insane how poorly handled the middle school coach was for Kageyama's team. Like, what a fumble by him to lose Kageyama away from your program. Like, how bad of a coach do you need to be to allow that to happen? Like, let's be honest here. I would bring Kurosano higher. Yeah, so we had Kurosano above Inarizaki for a while, but the kind of discussion was that we don't if they're champion level, it's like I really do think they could have had a chance, these teams, to win the whole thing. And we just don't think Kurosano in this first year was really able to do it, and that they're kind of a Cinderella story and taking variance out of it and trying to think about how a lot of games would go, that it's kind of unlikely that they would win. And so we ended up moving them down to top of national, but very, very close between them and Rizaki and Kamo Medai. Am I too late? Well, yeah, the stream will be ending soon, but we're happy to have you here. Throw some questions in if you want, and as long as questions are flying, like I'll stay here talking to y'all. Shiro Torizawa had most third years, and we saw subs in training camp, so they might fall. Yeah, I think they stumble a little bit, and like that's just kind of how it goes. And it's really hard to compete with Crossnose monster first year generation. I heard Datetek somehow became a powerhouse in the later years. Yeah, well, they make it to nationals in the next inter high, and then I don't know if they really are competing with like after that, especially when they lose Ione. I don't know how good they'll be. I always feel sorry for Goshi. Imagine having his skill following up Ushijima's ace, then never making it to nationals. Yeah, it's so brutal. So brutal. Like, man, like you'd think they could have just changed. What a fumble by them to not figure out a way to get Kageyama into their program. Like, do you really need to be getting that good of grades, to play volleyball? National under 19 scouting level player. Yeah, we're dropping him because he's a bit angy. Fair enough. Do you think the Twins win nationals in the next year? I don't know if it said when they beat Krosno how far they go, but they definitely have a chance to. I mean, losing Aaron's a big deal. Like you lose Aaron, you lose Kita, but it also shows that that they're a lot more consistent, in that spring high next year. Like it's very, very hard. It would be very hard to compete with them. Your favorite coach in Haikyuu is actually the Kamo Medai's coach, like in terms of philosophy, not like character writing or anything, but like he's the person I would want to play for. And I think his outlook, and I think earlier I was asked a question about like team philosophies, and then Kamo Medai's, I didn't mention them and I should have. I really think, their outlook on there's no momentum. Each play is a result of your own actions, and how, like you can really, you don't want to give away responsibility to what happens in a game because of, momentum or something as silly as that. Like, it, you just weren't able to receive for a specific reason, and it's just like something you evaluate and you move on. I really, really like him. But obviously, like in terms of character writing, young coach Yukai and Nakamata and Washijo are the best, I think, for sure. I like the twins coach. I don't know why though, but still, yeah, he's good. I do like him, even though he's not a ton. The first coach who actually made me care about coaching, yeah, he's so good. Yeah, Aaron Murphy is the Kama Medai coach. I love him, but mainly because of his philosophy is really the reason. Um, I think Washijo's character development though is like so good. Um, but yeah, I love Aaron Murphy, and then you gotta love the U guys, right? They're the best. Um, so yeah, I guess we hit about the hour and a half mark. So yeah, this is a pretty good Sunday stream. I feel pretty good about these rankings. Thank you all for hanging out. There'll be more streams. I'm probably gonna move to 2 streams a week soon here. So I really like these Sunday morning ones, and then I might do some during the week to try to get people to hang out. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. We'll talk some more Haikyuu. I'll let you all know if we do a Haikyuu read through, if it's on Twitch or something else, to try to get, build a community there and just kind of handle these copyright situations as they come. Make sure to check out the Ping Pong the animation video. It'll be out later today. And if you've never seen it, that's okay. The first half of that video is non-spoilers. So yeah, spoiler-free video there. And then if you have seen it, there'll be some spoiler talk at the end of it. That show's so good. So I hope you all enjoy it, and we'll see you guys in the next stream and enjoy the video.